let's talk about how you're doing,
Yeah.
you know, because, we talked about it earlier. The novelties worn off. The reality is set in. How you doing? Everybody's in kind of different situations. Dan and I kind of are in a similar situation. We both have jobs that are still busy, and we're not necessarily currently looking at any sort of downturn in our 9 to 5 work. And we've got kids at home. I'm dealing with like homeschooling.
Totally.
Uh,
Oh,
so like, there's a lot of guys who have looked at this and like, hey, this is a great opportunity, and I have all this time to kind of get into all of these different endeavors. My day to day hasn't really changed very much, other than I'm losing the, let's say, 37 minutes that I would normally get to myself
right.
between work and back.
Yeah.
Other than that, everything's basically the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I in a way, I feel very privileged about that. In a way, I feel like I'm kind of missing out on the experience because so many people are like sitting at home twiddling their thumbs, and that's a big part of what this moment of life is for them. So,
Yeah.
I know it is the height of privilege to wish that I had nothing to do, but
Right.
but there is like something about that. I was talking to my partner Taylor in Cold Iron Ray, who her boyfriend goes off and manages a restaurant that's still open doing takeout for most of the hours of the day, and she sits at home alone, and it's not great. And we're lucky enough to not have empty hours like that, and even if we did, we'd have children all over us. So
yes, we do.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, in my case, I've got some creative things that like I normally wouldn't have time for to kind of either move around or kind of delegate. But outside of that, it's just kind of the monotony of it. So like I said, like I haven't left my house in 3-4 days.
Yeah.
And it'll be another 3 or 4 days before I leave again. And just trying to find this is really kind of a talk about like mental health, self-care, that kind of thing. It's a bit of a different conversation because it's much more widespread, and it's not just, I'm so busy, I'm sad. It's like,
yeah.
That's kind of been how it has been up to this point.
Yeah. Well, the irony, of course, is that it revealed to us, I'm so busy, I'm sad. I'm so not busy, I'm sad. Well, maybe it doesn't have anything to do with the busy, right?
Maybe I'm just sad.
I'm so busy, I can't get anything done. Well, I'm sitting around the house and I'm still not getting it. Like maybe there's just something to deal with about procrastination for me.
Yeah.
It's the thing about this is that it's going to reveal a lot of truths about us personally and about us as a culture and about us as a country that may not all be very pleasant truths. And so getting through that is like part of what the conversation is. Yeah, I will say for me and for the people I've been interacting with, the hardest thing about this is the pull to not just accept it the way it is.
Yeah.
Right. But to instead sit in like, I wish it was different. I wish it was some other, like, well, how come it has to be like this? I know it has to be like this, but I hate it. Versus like, yeah, this is how this is. This is how this is. This is how this is going. And none of us did anything to bring it upon ourselves. And complaining about it on Facebook makes no difference about it whatsoever. The nature of the personal work I've done in my life has mostly been around accepting what's so.
Yeah.
And this has been a real challenge to that for me. This has been a real, and for the people around me, this is like, how come it has to be like this is like the question that is most causing us pain right now, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there was a period of time where we could kind of be like, all right, this is just a temporary deal and we can kind of work around it and it's not going to affect this and this. A month ago I was talking about, we got this gig at the end of March. Like it'll probably happen.
Yeah.
And it feels so crass to kind of think about that mindset now. But like in the grand scheme of things, like those are things that don't necessarily affect me other than my own just kind of selfish ambition or like you were saying, like the thing that feeds the part of me that needs to play shows.
Yep.
For some of the guys in my group, it's taking money out of their pockets. It's taking food out of their pantries. Like it's much more serious.
Yeah.
That's kind of why, like that gig that I had that got canceled where I still got paid. I I gave that money away
Right.
without really any hesitation, because I knew cynically at that moment that like this probably isn't going to be a short-term thing.
Right.
And I need to do this while I can, and I have the means, and it doesn't hurt. So I'm going to continue to do that. But yeah, I mean, at this point, there's the whole like, I sure would love to play in front of people, and I would sure love to get the validation that I get out of being a person who does that. There's a part of me that feels guilty for feeling that way, and that because I don't need it other than for my own kind of selfish whatever, just ambition or drive or whatever, I don't need to do it.
Right.
And so that's kind of kept me from doing it more. And maybe that changes, and maybe I do one every now and then just to kind of, keep things fresh. Because basically, like, this current situation is like every band is now playing in the same club.
Yeah.
For the same people.
But it's a massive club. It's an enormous club.
It's the biggest club in the world, but like there's only so many rooms that you can go into.
Yeah.
And you don't need the eyeballs as much as the next person does,
Yeah. Well, I mean, how I've solved that for myself is to have the eyeballs that I'm taking funnel towards something that makes a difference for people.
Totally.
Right. So, and I will tell you, I have no shame at all in the fact that a big part of me lives inside performance. Sure. A big part of who I am lives inside performance.
Yeah.
And to think that I wouldn't be able to play a song and look up and see that I have 30 people live streaming me on Facebook. First of all, that's a shallow, pale shadow of having a room full of people screaming. But it's a damn sight better than nothing. And I leave those shows on Saturday with that part of me alive, and it's great. And I'm glad that I'm able to funnel the resources that generates into something that's worthwhile, So I would my recommendation would be to find a way to do that. We need that. We do need that. There's a reason we're here. There's a reason we're these people doing this, is that we do need that. We do need that. We do need it. And it's not, weak of us to need that. We actually, that's just who we are.
Maybe it's weak of us.
I don't know that it is. I think it's just how we're wired. And
no, I mean, it is, but I don't know if it's not weak of us.
Well, I mean, it's not, there's like validation.
Yes.
There's the validation part of it maybe isn't all that healthy, but for me, it's the connection part of it. It's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I think, certainly the feedback I've always gotten when I played live is that I was giving as good as I got in those moments. Right. So I really just recommend everybody listening, find a way to do that, because it's important to us. It's the creature that we are. We're built for that, and trying to deny that, I don't think that's real healthy. I think we should find a way to feed that part of us, because it's important, and also have that feed what the community needs, and the, people who really need that, the financial support of it needs. I said to a friend of mine who's a full-timer, I've always been kind of a little jealous of those guys, like that they're that committed, that they're all in about it. And I'm suddenly not, I'm real glad for where I am. And I'm glad that I can contribute, because I have the opportunity to. And so,
I think we had been back and forth, and in that moment, like where things started to kind of show themselves, I was like, man, I'm really glad I got my boring
no kidding
9 to 5.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah.
And it's that weird kind of guilt. You feel guilty because you are okay for the time being.
Yeah. Yeah.
So pity party aside, a couple of things that I thought have been kind of cool ideas and things that you can do, like kind of to your point. I'm going to shout out Tom Blair, who is a good friend of mine. You can find him on Blair Out Loud.
Blair Out
Loud. He's been doing social distancing concerts in his neighborhood. So he lives on the end of a cul-de-sac. So he just sets up his situation at the end of the cul-de-sac, and then everybody can sit in their yards.
Fun.
And listen to him do his thing, and they can Venmo and PayPal his tips.
Cool.
And so everybody kind of gets that social moment, that connection,
that's great.
Thing.
It's great.
Without getting all in everybody's faces. And there's simply a couple of times where I've like thought about, oh, what the hell, I'll just put an extension cord out at the end of the driveway, do something on a weekend. And that may still very well happen. But Tom is just one of my favorite human beings.
He's so great on Facebook. I would love to meet him in person.
He's such a talented guy, but he's got the best heart out of like anybody I know.
That's great.
So if you aren't following Tom, please follow him at Blair Out Loud on all major social media channels. He's a great dude. Outside of like music stuff, like what's working for you, Dan? Like what is it? What are things that you're doing to kind of like keep your sanity, kind of keep you grounded, keep you centered? Like what's working for you right now?
Sure. Well, a few things. We take a family walk after dinner every night. It's not negotiable. We're doing that. And what's cool is my neighborhood is out. You're going to have to do like the social distancing dance, walking down the sidewalk with each other. But people are out and they're glad to see you and waving at each other and stop and chat. And because everybody's brutally lonely at this moment in time. The other thing, I have a 6-year-old little girl, and over last weekend, we exposed her for the very first time to episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Star Wars. Yeah. And she was good. It was good. She was already spoiled for the big reveal of Empire, but the somewhat smaller reveal of Jedi, she was not yet spoiled for, and she figured it out. She was like slightly ahead of it and very proud of herself. I think the bad news is that we'll be doing 1, 2, and 3 this weekend.
Womp womp.
And I really hoped that we could avoid 1 because she is a little mimic and she's going to be jar-jarring all over my house for the next month.
Misa, so that's annoyed by what you have say.
The worst. But, so to sort of back up from that, like a big part of my emotional and mental survival has been about connecting with my kid. And she's just like me, when she's struggling, she's not going to admit it. She'll be fine at all costs. Which I don't know anything about that. She doesn't understand quite what's happening, but it sure feels like being punished. And it's hard. We've had some really great talks, like to be able to say to your 6-year-old, like, look, I'm frustrated and sad and scared and I'm ready for this to be done and it can't be done. And I'm mad about that. And my relationship with her is in a whole new way.
That's great.
Out of all this having happened. And she's bonkers and she's 6 and she, comes galloping into my room with a cutout dragon made out of cardboard and says, "This is for you, Daddy." And thanks. And she leaves, she's bouncing off the walls because that's what we're all doing, but she's 6. So she has a ton of energy to do it with, which I know you have no idea about. So that's been really great. Like being able to connect, with my family a little more than ever before, has challenges, but has a lot going for it too. So
one of the things that I think has been a real blessing in the midst of all this is that the weather in our part of the country has been really just
gorgeous.
Yeah. So we've had the opportunity to spend a lot of time outside, and a lot of times on my lunch hour, we just go for a walk. So we'll eat something, we'll go for a little bit of a walk. We have a playground in our neighborhood. They've closed it down, which really sucks. Because that was what we would do. We would take a walk and let them loose. But like, my youngest just turned 5 this past week.
Yeah.
And, that's really tough because, 6, you can kind of be a bit more honest than you can with a 5-year-old who doesn't understand. He was supposed to go to the beach for his birthday because it was supposed to be spring break. He was supposed to have a party. He was supposed to have all these people come over. And my family, I'm not going to get too choked up about it, but like they do like the drive-by, honk the horn kind of, birthday parade. And just trying to make the best of that situation for someone who doesn't get why everything is so stupid right now.
Yeah.
That's been a cool moment because otherwise we wouldn't get those opportunities to have those conversations.
Yep.
But outside of that, for me, happy hour starts at 3 p.m.
Totally.
That's been kind of helpful. And then I've been getting up early before everybody gets up and got back into doing yoga because haven't really had a chance to, you can't go to a gym, and I hate running with the fire of 1,000 suns. And found this really great yoga series on YouTube. It's like 30 minutes, and it's just kind of a good way to start your day, get the blood pumping, get your rings closed and that whole thing. And then also the Calm app, which I've talked about multiple times with like the bedtime stories. They also have, they have like what they call a daily Calm, which is like a 10-minute kind of meditation practice. So what I do is I get up around 5:30, 5:45, go and do the yoga for 30 minutes or so, then do kind of 10 minutes of like, let's set the day and kind of get that whole process going. And I've really kind of locked into that routine maybe over the past 2 weeks. But it's made a big difference in just kind of feeling like, all right, I'm getting up. I've got things to accomplish. I've got stuff to do before the kids get up and before coffee needs to be made and before we have to start doing homeschooling and all of that stuff. So those have both been things that have been super helpful. And then also just kind of like general rules, like no drinking after 8. Doing things like taking CBD or melatonin just to kind of like wind down, and just kind of general, try and find ways to drink more water and get more exercise and just kind of like have goals for the day, though getting into a routine that not only kind of gets the whole family across the finish line, but also like gives me, things to check off and feel good about.
Totally. Yeah, no, I think a routine's really important. I will say I in principle, I love running. I ran a half marathon several years ago. I haven't done it at all. And I totally told myself that this would be my opportunity. So, and I've done nothing about that. So, that's something I should take on.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody wants, the link or, more information about the program that I'm on, it's like a 30-day deal. And it's perfectly doable for anybody on any level. My goal is just to get back to like being able to touch my toes, because I can't still right now.
Right.
And yoga is just one of those things that I don't necessarily like it, but I also just kind of love what it does for me.
Sure.
It's one of those things that like, it is kind of like there's a mental component to it that I totally respect. And the fact that it literally takes no equipment and very little space makes it kind of a complete no-brainer for this particular situation.
Yeah.
As much as I would love to get back into a CrossFit gym and like have a bunch of weight to throw around, I've got like a kettlebell and 2 10-pound weights and a yoga mat, and that's what I've got. So I'm just trying to make the best of it.
Yeah, it works.
And then trying to play guitar whenever I can.
We're making it through, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
We have no option, so we got to make it through.
And at this point, we've done most of the things that we can do. We've talked a lot about self-improvement, and maybe it's not music related right now. Maybe it's not creative. Maybe it's just personal. Maybe it's just like trying to get, what's going on between your ears.
Well, and I'll say early on in all this mess, we were among the people who said, "Oh, use this time to improve yourself." And I don't know. At this point, I'm like, whatever you got to do to make it through.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like the yoga thing isn't like, I definitely am putting weight on.
No, I put on my COVID-19 for sure.
100%.
Yeah.
It's more of let's put some muscle around whatever the hell I'm doing on top of that. But also, I got like my green drinks that I drink in the morning, like,
nice.
and after I have my coffee.
Yeah.
I'm doing that's my intermittent fasting excuse. Like, I'm like, I'll just eat at lunchtime. But then I have we had like pork fried rice for lunch, and then I had Mexican for dinner.
Yeah.
But I'm getting up in the morning before everybody else, and I'm working out. So screw you guys.
Yeah. And look, we will confront whatever's left when we can come blinking.
We will buy new stage clothes whenever the hell we get to play out again.
Exactly. Yeah. If it takes me 6 more months to fit back into my pants, that's how that's going.
I tell you.